Welcome to the Feminine Thriving podcast, brought to you by the Jade Temple, the sisterhood devoted to the wisdom and pleasure of the female body.
We are your hosts, Tamara Klemick and Hilary Kimball, and we are excited to journey with you as we share all about how to move from surviving to thriving in a female body. Thriving for us means you feel a sense of safety in your own body, that you are dripping with sensuality and aliveness, that you're experiencing pleasure and orgasms that connect you to your own divinity, and you feel confident, powerful, and abundant walking this planet with a badass community of sisters by your side. Oh, and we welcome the mess, the mud, the chaos, and embrace all that it is to be a woman.
There will be solo episodes, episodes with both of us, and episodes with other smart, wise, funny, and sexy women, and maybe even men, to share their embodied wisdom with us. We acknowledge our sharing on this podcast comes from the experiences and viewpoints of us, two white, middle-class, cisgendered women. If we ever say anything that causes harm to you or your experience on the planet, please share with us so that we can continue to grow, learn, and bring new perspectives also to this space.
So, without further ado, let's drop into today's juicy episode. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Feminine Thriving podcast. I am here with Avigayil Lev.
Hi, everyone.
She is a amazing, incredible sexuality educator, feminine embodiment coach, couples therapist, and facilitator. She's a sister here on the island, and an Israeli sister is my tribe. And I'm really, really happy to have you here.
I'm also really happy to be here.
Thank you for sitting here and having this conversation. Yeah, and actually Avigayil and I, we just went through a beautiful Yoni Initiation Retreat. Avigayil was assisting me and bringing her gifts and medicine to the whole retreat, which was...
It was amazing.
Yeah, super beautiful.
Yeah, it's interesting also that we do such similar work, in different places in the world. And when you can connect with a sister that does similar work to you, you know that like learning from each other is always incredible for me.
Totally. Yeah. And it's beautiful because like we all deliver the medicine in slightly different ways. We have a different life experience. We come from different places. We've done different studies, different trainings. So even if we're like coming to the similar field, we have different things that we offer. And
and I love to be inspired and
Me too. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to add about you and your work before we crack into?
I'll just say that it's beautiful just to be here because I'm also manifesting creating more content in English. I'll say that I'm really Israeli and I work a lot in Hebrew, and I'm slowly maneuvering to working and meeting women from all over the world. So for me, it's like manifesting even just talking to you here and creating that together. So that's also really beautiful for me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. I always start this podcast when I have a guest with a question.
Mm-hmm.
What is feminine thriving to you?
Yeah, so it's a great question. It's one of my favorites actually to talk about. I'll say that I see femininity today in the world as like we have like a lot of layers on us. So it could be conditioning or the way we grew up. I even like sometimes imagine it like kind of like dust all over our body or layers or onion layers. And for me, feminine thriving is actually slowly removing these layers, or sometimes I say like blowing on the dust, right? So learning to let go of different things that we've been conditioned to in many, many ways. So I start with maybe emotions that we feel around our bodies. So that can be shame or guilt, unworthiness. I worked with that a lot with a client this morning. And really letting go of all this conditioning of what it is to be a woman in this world, what is sexuality, what it is to be in a woman's body. So for me, feminine thriving is to be, first of all, connected to our body. That means many things. So that can be knowing your cycle, what it is, and really following your cycle. So that's one thing of being connected to our body. The other one is feeling emotions or feeling our body, feeling the sensations in our body, which many of us don't because we've been conditioned to, I call it this beautiful box up here, that for many, many years we've been put in schools to be conditioned to just listen to our brains, and we don't listen. We don't go down, I call it going down the elevator, listening to our bodies. So that's being more embodied, and then taking care of our body. So for me, also feminine thriving is even going to the doctor and understanding that he doesn't know better than me about my body. So for me, even using Western medicine as just, like this quick fix is not feminine thriving. Feminine thriving is, my body, there's some pain, there's something that I'm going through. Oh, my body's talking to me. So this has obviously endless amount of aspects. For me, feminine thriving is knowing that I know how to give birth, and my body knows how to do it naturally. So it is this deep, deep connection to ourselves, to our bodies, to our femininity, which maybe we can get into that, what that means. And maybe walking like empowered. That's what I would say, like in the end, the essence is. So walking true to myself, true to who I am, not being conditioned by what other people expect from me. And then having this empowerment that's actually like a felt sense, I think. So many things.
Yummy. Yes. Totally agree. And I guess, when you talk about these things, like, I guess being in tune with your cycle and also knowing your inner wisdom, like really feeling that you have this ultimate wisdom about your own body and empowerment, like obviously there are many like keys in there, but was there a moment where like this really started to unlock for you? Was there some moment in your life or your learning or your education where it was like, okay, like a really key moment?
Yeah, there are a few, because obviously like with my cycle there was a moment, and then there was a moment with my sexuality. But maybe I'll talk more about actually my sexuality, because I didn't say that enough, like on the feminine thriving, but it's obviously also for me being a free sexual sovereign being and understanding that sexuality is a beautiful thing. It's our life force energy, and it's really learning how to have more sacred sexuality. So in our culture, sexuality is also a lot demonized, and it's this animalistic thing, or it's very, very, very technical. Obviously what we see on porn. And what happened to me in my personal life was, in my spiritual journey, I think about 7 years ago, I first went to like more sexual workshops, and I actually remember like the first one I was in, one of the first in Israel, I saw women around me that were like the helpers or the assistants, and I looked at them and I'm like, wow, they feel really comfortable in their bodies. Like I could see it somatically. I was like, I'm so nervous and like anxious, and I just saw them. I was like, that's possible for me. Like something about also, like this can maybe take away for whoever listens to us. Sometimes for me, it helps to see people who are maybe embodying the thing I want, and realizing like kind of taking, not taking the energy, being inspired by their actual embodiment and their energy, and actually like letting it go into my body. I don't know if I'm explaining it well enough, but seeing, she has it. Oh, I can do it too. And kind of learning from her groundness, from whatever that woman's energy is, and really learning, okay, that's possible for me. And then seeing also women that were free in their sexuality. So looking around the space and just seeing women feeling really safe and comfortable. And I think that there was a moment there that I was like, okay, wow, like that I want that, and I know I can also slowly get there. And actually the transformation at that point was really quick in my own body, like in terms of really feeling safe and feeling like I can be that sexual woman. And obviously there's still a lot to go, but I think that year, if I'm not like 2017, 2018 was a big shift in my life.
Yeah, I completely relate. And there is, actually as human beings, we actually do learn through transmission of other human beings from when we're babies. This is actually how we learn to like even like eat and walk and talk and all of these things. It's limbic resonance is part of it, and this is how we actually learn. So this is actual body wisdom. It's not something that we intellectualize in the mind,
exactly.
But the body just starts to regulate or learn and absorb in these ways.
It's like possible, yeah. And I think that it's if there's anything that you want in your life, you can really find, like I do this with clients sometimes, I'm like, look around, like, do you know a woman around you, for example, that feels sexually free? Look at her body language, look at her embodiment, look how she walks the world, and really you can get inspired from that, really that limbic resonance that you can feel.
Yeah, exactly. And it is why one of the things about going to these spaces or going to workshops, that for us as holders of these spaces, like one of the most important things for us is to embody what we're teaching. Not just intellectually have some understanding and be able to blah, 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 speak about things and like transmit like intelligence and knowledge, but like live it, be it. And the more that we, that's why I actually see my life as my work, not just the moments that I'm working. It's every single thing that I do around, from the minute I wake up to the minute I go to bed, to like be an embodiment of what it is that I'm teaching, so that when I'm sitting in this space, that transmission is happening more from who I am than what I say.
Yeah, totally. And our nervous system, right? Like making sure that we're regulated and making sure that, people feel safe around us, the way we speak even. But yeah, that's super important.
Yeah. And I always love to say, like, particularly for women, where we've been taught to feel like we're competing with each other, and that if she's got something, then I'm less than. And yeah, like always in this hierarchy of where we sit, rather than seeing like that a woman who has what we want as like a threat or as something that makes us less than, just like as an inspiration. And it's kind of exactly the same thing as what you're saying. It's like, wow, that's what I want. Like, okay, how can I be around her more, or like just witness her more, or just take it in and like, see each other as what's possible rather than what I don't have.
It's funny, in Hebrew, they're actually, the words are like similar, like jealousy and inspiration. So it's like from kin'a lehana'at, like I said, that, or from kin'a lehashra'ah. So it's like similar words, but from jealousy to inspiration, and realizing, if anyone has something, I can get it. It doesn't matter if it's feminine embodiment or $1 million. I mean, it's possible for me, and to really learn from their embodied experience.
Amazing. I just, as you said about $1 million, I'm actually leaving next week to go to like a women's like business thing, and I'm like, I want to be around women who have like created a business and created abundance and created things that I haven't yet created for myself, because there is that transmission and that inspiration, and like I'm so excited to fill my own cup with things that.
And what you're saying is so important also. Like, I'm so glad that you're going there, but like who are the people around us? So that's another thing. Like, if we want to be feminine thriving, like we need to create the women around us being people that we're inspired by. So I also remember my transition, the year I was talking about, was also having people around me that actually had successful businesses that were also spiritual people. So for me, it was important to have that connection, so you can actually be a very spiritual and connected person, but still make money, which is like, I think maybe a new thing in the world. I'm not sure, but like meeting those kind of people. And by the way, the work I did on my embodiment, my empowerment, actually that year, I really created my business, and I had that like really going out into the world. So for me, those are super connected. So the more we are embodied, the more we are sexually thriving as well. That is when there's a shift, and we can also create what we want to create in our businesses or in the world. So for me, that's a very direct connection. Like very much, that's what happened in my life, and I was able to create abundance and like huge shift.
Yeah. And I completely agree with the link of, like I say, as in sex, as in life, as in sex. Like they're both big mirrors.
Yeah.
But can you just like unpack a little bit more what you mean by like when you're sexually thriving, how that impacts your life? Like more than just abundance, I guess.
So for me, it was like, even I think before that, like I didn't feel like I could sit in front of people and speak. I was really like, I remember like my throat being very closed. I didn't believe in what I had to say. I was a very shy person. I think a lot of people are surprised about that. I grew up very actually religious in a very like closed household, and I was very shy for many years. And I remember actually being really like stuck and wanting to create a business and just feeling like I don't even know how. And what happened in my sexual thriving was actually first connecting to my body. So just feeling those emotions, and slowly learning my empowerment. What does that mean? It's like learning that I don't know, it was actually like an embodiment shift. Like something happened where I was just realized that like I have what to give. And it was through just really loving my body, feeling safe with men. Like it's hard for me also because I feel like in some ways these things are, it's hard to put like a nail on it, because it's just like these changes that are so organic, but something around being free, just being free in my sexuality, not being so conditioned, allowed me to say, like I have what to give. I want to, create this business. And it was a long process, I would say, until like some kind of big shift happened. And I was like, okay. It was super scary in the beginning, by the way. I started teaching actually like female ejaculation, which is pretty out there. So it's super scary to make that shift, especially someone who comes from a very religious background. The first time I wrote a post on Facebook, I was like, okay, I'm going to take off all the people I don't want them to see it, because I have religious people. And by the way, not just Jewish religious people, also Muslim people on my Facebook, like people I didn't want to see what I was doing. And then at some point I was like, fuck it. Like, I'm just going to post this and whoever sees it, sees it. And that's also part of empowerment. Like, this is me. This is what I'm bringing into the world. Whoever wants to gain this knowledge is going to be touched by it. And whoever doesn't, that's okay as well. I think that's something that, like, something with like that straight back and like learning, okay, this is me. This is what I have to bring into the world.
Completely. And I obviously can relate very much. But this for me is like the link also actually between like working on our sexuality and like finding the freedom to be who we are. And it's because we have this conditioning around our sexuality being wrong or shameful. And when we can like own that and free ourselves from that story and see that we are sexual beings. Yeah. This is like, it's part of who we are. There's nothing dirty or wrong or shameful about sex. Like, there just isn't. I mean, there could be some things that there's many distortions of sexuality on the planet, for sure. And that's actually connected to this distortion of how we view sexuality. But when we can like go, oh wow, there's nothing wrong with me. I am sexual and that's who I am. Like, it's okay. It also filters out into life. Like, yeah, I'm okay. Like, there's nothing shameful about me. You know, someone came up to me the other day. She's also started working in this field and writing, and she's been writing some beautiful stuff. And she actually said, oh, I was thinking of you the other day because I was getting some like really negative messages from people saying like, how could you be sharing this kind of stuff, blah, 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 blah. And she said, it made me think of you, you know, because you're explicitly talking about sexuality a lot. And I was just like, yeah, it's such a process. It's such a deep process. And I'm still in it. There are still times when I'm sharing stuff and I'm like, oh, this is scary. This one feels big. But like, I'm not ashamed of who I am. Yeah. I am really proud of who I am. And I'm not ashamed of my sexuality. And I'm not ashamed of, I think actually last week or a few weeks ago, I wrote about a play party, and that was like another edge for me. I don't think written publicly about being in group sensuality or sexuality spaces. And that's a whole nother thing that we can sort of unpack. But I was like, no, I'm not ashamed of this. This is part of my medicine. This has been a part of my liberation. This has been such a beautiful and healing space. And of course, people will misunderstand me. 100%, probably like 90% of people that read this or see this will misunderstand me. That's okay. Yeah. I'm okay with being misunderstood. I'm okay with being judged, because I deeply, deeply, deeply know that like I'm a good person and I'm proud of who I am, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I feel also so lucky that we actually live in a space and time that we can be free, because women in the history couldn't, and still today in a lot of places in the world. And I feel like this healing that we're doing is not just for us, it's like for all the women who aren't free. And it's really, you know, beautiful to walk this world slowly, really just being us, like really, really undoing that conditioning. And we were talking before we started here about like the fact that the conditioning is everywhere. So I grew up in a more religious background in Israel and super, super conditioned into what sexuality is. Like for us, it was really you only have sex when you get married. And actually, it's really interesting in my story, because I always say that my family was actually very sexual. Like when I look back, my parents are sexual beings. So even though I grew up religious, which has like a lot of laws, I always had this, I had actually a strong erotic sexual energy always, even in my childhood. And it's always interesting for me, like to put that kind of child in that kind of environment and then see what happens. And I grew up also with a lot of distortions. Like there was a lot of people, unfortunately also, you know, men around me really using sexuality in the wrong way. And I think that for me, this liberation was huge because of where I grew up. And it was you can imagine it was a very, very, very long process. And I'm sure that you were conditioned, like living in a more free.
I was also in a religious childhood.
Oh, yeah?
Religion, Christian. Yeah. With some very strong beliefs. I mean, it changed over time when we got kicked out of the church. And then when my dad left, my mum was definitely not religious. But that very foundational years was in a very strict religious conditioning.
And I feel like in some ways our society wants us to be small, it's not a human that, you know, has but this conditioning is in order for us to stay small, to stay not empowered. I think it's easier to control humans when they're like this, and to actually uncondition ourselves is really pushing against a lot of norms in our society. And we're lucky enough to be here on Kopangan, where we can dress the way we dress and walk the way we walk and have that power. And it's, I don't take it for granted. So
no, neither do I. And actually, like, so much of what I witness here on this island, like, women do blossom here. Like, women blossom because they feel safe.
Yeah, exactly.
We live in Thailand. It's a very, very safe place to live. In Kopangan specifically, it's got its own unique culture. It is this mixing pot of cultures from all around the world, and somehow, we're all living here, creating life together. But it's like, it's safe for us to express this part of ourselves and to, like, blossom into our beauty, into our sexuality, into dressing sexy. In some places around the world, it is just genuinely not safe as a woman to be in your power, to be blossoming like this, let alone how you dress and what you do with your sexuality. So and we often say in our workshops, in my workshops, retreats, whatever, it's like, we don't do this for ourselves. This isn't just a path of selfish, like, I just want to be a sexual woman and I'm going to be free and powerful and, like, it doesn't matter about anyone else. We do this for every woman on the planet that can't, and it does ripple out. And we do it for our mothers and our grandmothers and all of our ancestors that couldn't also, like, be in their power. And this is, like, for me, this movement of us as women to come into our power in this way is the rebalancing of the feminine power on the planet. Like, it just is. Women have so much wisdom and so much power and so much heart and so much love, and this idea of, like, collaboration and being in this together and co-creating. And when we can tap into that and get out of this competitive conditioning that we've had as women, like, this is the thing that's going to, like, shift the planet. And it's not a selfish path, not for most women that are doing this work. It's not a selfish path at all, even though from the outside many people would judge it as that. It's actually the complete opposite. It's for us first and foremost, but also for the collective.
They say in some traditions that you're actually, like, healing 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. So we don't even know what's going to be in the world going forward. Actually, the world doesn't look so good at the moment. But that the healing work we do is always not just healing us. And that's really profound to understand.
Thank you so much for being here with us and listening to this podcast. It really means so much to us that you're here and spending your time with us. And we are so passionate about bringing incredibly helpful and inspiring content directly to you through this podcast. And as a thank you, we would love to offer you a discount to our online membership, the Sisterhood. This is a space where we are a community of women coming together to reclaim our pleasure, reclaim our bodies, and reclaim our wholeness as women. And we have a beautiful community of women where we are offering daily drops of super short 5-minute, 10-minute practices and journal prompts. We have 5 classes per month, and we have a beautiful community of women sharing and supporting each other as we journey through this experience of being a woman, being in a female body on the planet. So as a thank you to you, you can get 20% off this membership by adding in the code THRIVING as you check out on the Sisterhood website. So that is www.thejadetemple.com/the-sisterhood. We'll have the link in the show notes below. But you can enjoy your juicy 20% offer by using the code THRIVING. Hope to see you in there.
It's super important, I think, what you're saying also about the fact that it's not just for us, that it's really for the world, what we're doing. At the Yoni Initiation, it was really interesting for me. Maybe we'll go back to, like, the conditioning that happens everywhere in the world. So you say, like, you grew up religious and I grew up religious, but, like, what was amazing was to meet people. First of all, there were Indian people, women, maybe that, grew up in different countries. And then there were women from all over Europe, and there was Chinese women. And it was just amazing for me to see, obviously, also the cultural differences and also the conditioning that happens everywhere in the world. So we talked before about places in the world that were more free, even here in Thailand, where we are free, but still there's a lot of conditioning of women here. I think you had a podcast about that as well.
Yeah, it's amazing podcast with Safe and Nina.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that even though, like, our world has changed so much, right? So since the 60s and the feminine uprising and all the changes that have been going on in the world that is in many ways more free, there's still conditioning everywhere. And it was so amazing for me to listen to the women everywhere, like the fact that even you had a group that had women from everywhere in the world, and every woman with their story, and just realizing like in some ways we are different cultures. Like there are cultures that are much more tough, you know, Chinese cultures, and then but anyway, we all had that like conditioning and that history of really the masculine taking over, and the fact that we're not connected to our bodies, and obviously all the sexual horrible things that have happened in our history. So yeah, it's mind blowing to do this work on like a global level.
Yeah. It's actually one of the things that I really love about what we do here on Kopangang and the Jade Temple in general. You know, it is like a truly, truly global community of women. We have women from all over the world and all of these different cultures. And yeah, like exactly as you said, it's like we have different cultures, and then there are so many similarities of what's going on underneath from those.
And then you imagine all these women going back to their countries and their families. And like, I always imagine like they're emanating, right? So we talked in the beginning about the nervous system. So they don't even have to be different women. Like you can still walk in your family or in your life, but something about your nervous system is more grounded, maybe more alive. Maybe you have like more tools. And then like, I imagine this emanation going around to like your family, to your loved ones. And I always say that like working on feminine embodiment and sexuality, you become a better mom, you become a better spouse. Your business becomes more successful. So it has like the ripple effects are huge. And for me, it's like, in some ways, like really every woman is invited to do this work, because the effect on our lives is so profound on so many levels. Like it's endless.
Yeah, I love this. And yeah, that's why I always say that like if we can do work on ourselves, it's like it's for everyone. Like I know for a fact the way I show up in my relationships with my family is 1,000 times better than it was before I started to do this work. You know, that I can like have so much space for them as well. It's like as we accept ourselves more, we also accept others more, right? So there is this it's so beautiful. Yummy.
Totally. I mean, it's still, you always say like, yeah, if you think you're spiritually finished your work, go home. Like I still have hardships probably with the family, but yeah, just it's interesting, right? Because like I've been doing this work for so many years, like I forget what I used to be like. But just having like that safety in the body, maybe we can even go into the safety, because like I feel like also in our workshops, like that's the number one thing. So we said like, yeah, we brought Kopangan, but not everyone feels safe where they live. Maybe that's listening to us. And really like cultivating the safety in our bodies. I feel like maybe that's like the number one tool that we teach in general in our workshops. And in general, I feel is like the number one thing that really creates that sexual or feminine thriving is safety.
100%. Yeah. And it's the basis of everything. It's the basis of like how we walk the world. It's the basis of pleasure. It's the basis of, all of this work. And even if we are somewhere that's unsafe, our environment or our relationships are unsafe, if we cultivate this inner sense of safety, and we have many, many tools and so many things that we can do to really build a sense of safety within ourselves, it can make us feel safer and be safer. This is the other thing as well. Like there's we talk about like 3 layers of safety. There's internal safety, environmental, external safety, and relational safety. But this like connection to ourselves and our intuition and our wisdom and our bodies, helps us feel internally safe, but it also makes us externally much, much safer when we are attuned to the signals that are going on in our body that are firing off all the time, that we've shut down and we're ignoring. It's like, it's literally, we are animals that we have, if you actually like even stare at the back of someone's neck for long enough, they'll turn around, right? Like it's like this thing that instincts are in our body, and we can fine tune and become more and more subtle with what we can feel. It's almost, look at a cat when there's something happens with the head. It's like everything in every animal when we look at nature, and it's in us. We've just disconnected from it. So a lot of this embodiment work is about cultivating safety within, but it helps us be safer everywhere we go, even when we're in environments that are less safe than our sweet little life on Copenhagen.
Exactly. And I feel like that's like number one, if like the tools that, to learn sexuality is really to cultivate that inner safety and that inner wisdom of really, really, really listening to ourselves. And I already have, like, I'm able to say, like even with a friend, like, I don't feel safe right now. Like, I don't feel safe. That's why I am reacting the way I am. That's why I'm tense at the moment. And also having that like self-love. Okay, I don't feel safe. This is why I'm acting this way. Because like our nervous systems just react, right? So it's not even something that it could be very automatic. A lot of us also maybe have like traumatic histories, and then just like being able to say like, oh, I don't feel safe right now, or what I need in order to feel safety for myself, from inside my body, or really from my environment. And that's like a very big shift that I think also helped me, like in my story of being sexually or feminine, more free.
Definitely.
And not putting myself in dangerous environments as well. Yeah.
And I guess like you sort of sharing this, and it's taking me into one of the other things that we wanted to talk about, which is like, we're not sitting here saying, oh, we've cultivated safety within, and now we're always feeling safe, and we walk the planet feeling safe, and we've like solved it all, and here we are, the finished product of our healing journey, and
totally not.
Like, come and learn from us because we're fixed. Like, we are working with this stuff all day, every day, and there are moments where we feel unsafe. There are moments we feel unsexy. There are moments we are overriding our systems. There are moments where we feel not enough. That like all of it, it comes up, and it's like this continuous path. We're like continually working and cultivating all of these things, and it's never done. Like it's not.
And look, like for me, it's relational. So like, I don't know, you have maybe a similar story. I don't know how much you want to get into it, but like for me, I'm going to be 39 next week. And I have a very hard time creating like a safe, healthy relationship with a man, which is something that I really want. And like, I know that there's so much trauma work still to work on. So like for me, it's endless. I know that like, it's a journey for myself, and probably for anyone listening, and probably for you, it's like a lifelong journey, and there's nowhere to get to. Like, I don't feel like there's a point. Like for me, healing isn't like, oh, I'm supposed to be this Avigayil that, has even a relationship. Like the healing for me is to walk the journey, and just to just do that work more and more, and feel more and more safe in myself, love myself more, which is like a big one for me, like really, really accepting myself and loving myself and loving all my trauma and everything I went through. And it's, for me, it's like, I always say it's a lifelong journey, because like, what are we living for? For me, we're living for this. Like, this is what we're here to do. And it's actually exciting, because then I know that like my life is always going to be interesting. I'll just say that really I have a birthday next week. So for me, it's like a time of reflecting on my life and my past year, which isn't easy. But what's amazing for me is to realize like, I'm actually like, wow, I am a different person from the last few years, I studied a lot of attachment, and I've been studying a lot of therapy, and just realizing like, oh, I am a different woman. Like, it's actually like, there's a song in Hebrew that says like, find a moment in time and see that things have changed, right? Because it's easy to say like, oh, I'm not in a relationship, it's been so many years, nothing's changing. And like, I'm having a hard time with my birthday. But on the other hand, I will share that I am having moments of like, okay, wow, I am a better therapist. I am more deep than I used to be. I understand nervous system better. I understand the world better. So like, just to find that moment and say like, okay, I'm on this journey. It's endless, but there are things shifting and changing. There is healing happening.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think that for me, healing, like in many ways, is a deeper level of acceptance, actually.
I don't know the change,
Yeah. I'm not trying to constantly fix myself, more than accept myself, and with that acceptance, then some of these things can lessen their grip, and they can like be less in the shadows and kind of affecting us without our awareness. It's like awareness and acceptance, and then things can organically shift. But accepting that I might always be reactive, I might always have this thing inside of me, and like, can I make peace with her? Can I make peace with that part of myself?
We're so similar. Yeah, I already accept it. When people say to me I'm very reactive, I'm like, yeah, I'm traumatic. There's reasons for being that way. But I think this point is very, very important, because I feel like, again, like I met this a lot recently, and like women think that there's something they need to be, like this feminine thriving. Like, again, we talked about it, but it's not something that you need to be. It's not something that you need to do. It's right. there isn't an ideal. It's more of acceptance and loving yourself and really letting go of conditioning. But like, it's not, a woman that's sexually thriving doesn't look a certain way. Like, she's not, some like walking down the street in like certain kind of clothes and like having men fall, I don't know, to her heels. It's not that. And that's really important to me, because I do see a lot of comparisons of like what I'm supposed to be. And also when I'm teaching, people are like, oh, I'm supposed to be more like you. You're like this. And I'm like, no, that's not true. Like, your feminine thriving and sexual thriving can look different than mine. And it's about really loving yourself, accepting yourself, feeling yourself.
Yeah, and knowing yourself. Like, that's the thing. It's like, and we are constantly evolving. So it's like, who am I now? Who am I in this moment? Who am I? And, how can I be more and more and more? How can I feel safer and safer and to be me? Like, just all of me. And that's this, like, I'm actually in the process of developing a course at the moment, which is like purely on this, like the pleasure of being me, right? Like, who am I now, and how can I love that, and how can I express that more fully? And I really believe that we're on a constant learning of who we are. Like, it's like deeper and deeper and deeper learning. Like, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Who I was, who I'm going to be like in a month after this trip. She's definitely going to be a different woman than the one that's sitting here today, and it's so beautiful. It's like constant exploration and discovery.
Yeah. And I think I brought like to the Yoni initiation, the metaphor I use a lot is like of a tree. So we are always growing. So like the natural trajectory is always of growth. Our body knows to heal itself. All we need to do is give it really like a tree. It needs good earth, it needs sun, and it needs water. So it's really like understanding that we do need that environment we talked about before, like that really healthy environment of people around us and the way that they act. And we do need to maybe have the tools of really cultivating these things. And there are many tools, but in the end, the healing happens on its own. And for me, that's really profound. Like, we just need that loving presence, maybe a therapist, or doing, whatever it is for you. It could be your meditation every morning, but like, the healing happens on its own. It's really, really a natural thing that happens in the world. Like a tree grows.
Definitely. And the way a scar heals, or the way the body heals itself physically, it actually is healing itself also in the sense of traumas or the nervous system. It's like the body is a healing machine. It's like its direction is going to be towards that.
Yeah. So it's more of like letting go.
Okay.
No, but it's more of just giving it the space to do what it needs to do.
Yeah.
And our body and our world isn't so healthy. I'll just say, like, a lot, the world is conditioning us in many ways, like what we eat and watching TV all day and the people around us and all of that, and obviously watching the news. So all of that is coming into our system and not helping us heal. And it's more and more and more cultivating the environment and the things we do in a day-to-day life that can help us.
Beautiful. So I guess I'm just curious if there's let me feel into where we can go. I would love to just hear a little bit more, like your story, if there's something that feels relevant to share. Like you talked about that, the sort of like pivotal year of being in spaces like seeing women, but is there like anything either from like the before or another kind of key moment where there was a big shift for you, or a big insight, or a big realization that you feel would be?
There is maybe I'll just say that there was many years where I felt very frustrated because I knew that I was already like ready to make the shift and ready to create a business. And I was working actually in really amazing things. Like, I was working in Nepal and I was doing social justice work. And there was something inside of me that always felt like really not at ease. And I was working there. And then I worked on a farm and made like $8 an hour for quite a while. And this is already like, I'm pretty old by now. And like, I have 3 degrees from the university. And I was really, really stuck. And at some point, actually, my landlord came to me and he told me that I also have to leave my house. And I had like no money in the bank. Like, even in Israel, you can actually go into what's called a minus. So I had like negative a lot of money in the bank. And he's like, you can't live here anymore. And I just decided to actually take my car and go around Israel. And my first stop was a kibbutz in southern Israel, where I had been before. And I had told the women there, I'm like, oh, I started like learning a lot about like leading women's circles, and I'm studying it like to possibly facilitate. And they're like, oh, do it here for free. And I did a few. And that's when something really big shifted, because I realized like my knowledge walks with me, and I have internal wisdom and knowledge. And that summer, this is actually the summer of 2019, before COVID, all I did was drive my car around Israel. I wrote on Facebook, like, I'm going to Tel Aviv. I'm going to this little place in the Galilee. Like, come for a circle. And it was actually around female ejaculation. So that was pretty out there. But like, something big shifted in that summer. The fact that I actually didn't have a house, and I was totally free. I was a nomad, and that shifted everything in terms of just being. It was actually really easy to create these little women's circles. Women came, and very easily, like, I was able to also like be okay with, the facilitation wasn't that great in the beginning, and it changed really fast because I did these all summer. And that freedom of like, oh, this knowledge, this wisdom is inside of me. People want to hear it. And that was a huge, huge, huge shift. And actually during COVID, I made the most amount of money in my life. So it was like big, it happened right before. And yeah, something, and I always, like, people ask me what happened there. And I think it's also like, I do say that the fruit, at some point, like it just happens. Like the fruit ripens. And also what shifted there was, people believing in me. And I think the crazy frustration that I had for years of like, oh, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. I will say I did go study things. So I did have the knowledge base. And it was I'll just also say it was very scary in the beginning. And I know how scary it is to do these shifts, to come for the first time to a workshop, to come for the first time to a retreat. I remember the tremendous amount of fear, because I don't have it anymore. So it's good for me to remember how scary it was. I talked about that first post that I wrote. I was terrified. People might throw rocks at me down the street. And I just have to say that for me, like always, people have been reacting, people who know me, like the people, what we said, like people just reacting to you online. I don't care about those anymore. People who love me and appreciate me, and even the religious people actually write to me sometimes. They're like, we read what you write. We never react because we're religious, but just so you know. And like, just to say that our effect is so strong, we don't even know. Like, I write a post, you don't know who's reading it. That's what's amazing about this world. Like, I don't know if I'm getting to this, like, I don't know, a Muslim woman living somewhere who's reading my post and like knows about things, and the ripple effect is huge. So I don't know. I hope I answered your question about like that like shift of like driving around my car.
Amazing. Yes, super brave, and yeah, I love it. And it's kind of reminding me of my own desire right now to go on the road and be free and not know where I'm going. And yeah,
I still have that, but also like my next, and maybe like I can say it now because like that's my next manifestation, is really to teach everywhere in the world to be that free, and to say like, I'm coming to Greece, women come listen to me. And now it's interesting because I'm before this another shift, and it's as hard as the last one, like creating my business, and now there's another like growth that wants to happen, and I'm still having those like, I guess like those before birth, there's a lot of pain, and just believing that like this can happen, like that big manifestation of just creating this bigger and bigger. So
next level, next expansion, next growth edge.
The nervous system needs to learn something new every time. So I'm just saying, like, because we mentioned the fact that we like, it's not like we have solved everything yet. Both of us have businesses and they're doing pretty well, but I want more. And like that shift is hard for me, for both of us. And it's like, okay, this is endless, but it's an amazing journey to be on.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. It feels like that's a pretty yummy time to sort of wrap up. I guess my final question, let's see, is just like, is there anything else that you would love to just end with, to share, to express from your heart, your pussy, to the women who might be listening, or men, if there's any men listening to Feminine Thriving podcast, you're welcome.
So just to say that if I can make the shift and you can make the shift, everyone can. I believe in you, whoever is listening, men and women. And that it's maybe just to cultivate, who's the people around us, just believe that the healing happens on its own. So I think that just like for me to end on like the inspiration level, that I hope these words touched your body, not just your mind, like whoever's listening to us, that these things, if something that we said touched you on the heart level or the womb level, that really like let that just affect you. And I feel like just walking this world knowing that there is you are able to let go of conditioning is already a lot. Just that consciousness is already a big shift in your life. And yeah, just I hope people are inspired and to love themselves, to walk differently in this world.
Beautiful. And on that note, I'm going to offer that we all take a few deep breaths together, and in exactly what you've just said, like let anything land in your body. Let go of the mind and let go of thinking that you need to do something. And just like if there's anything from this conversation that feels, supportive, useful, inspirational, healing in any way, then just like let it settle. The body wisdom can just integrate and receive. So letting the air out of the lungs first. And then a deep inhale all the way to the belly. Let's do 2 more. Yummy. Never forget the power of a few breaths.
Yeah.
Thank you, love.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
It's been a real pleasure. I could talk for another 6 days non-stop about all of this with you. But yeah, it's a real pleasure and an honor to walk this path with you. And who knows, I have a feeling there may be some co-creations in the future.
I'd be very happy.
And magic and all sorts of things that can unfold. So yeah,
Amazing.
Thank you for being here, sharing your wisdom and your being. Thank you. Thank you for listening, and have a beautiful, pleasure-filled, easeful, connected day or evening ahead.
Or life.
Mwah. Thank you for listening, sisters. We hope you're feeling expanded after being here with us. If you are, the best way you can support us on this journey of creating free content for this movement is to rate, review, or share this podcast. It would mean so much to us as we try and grow this sisterhood into a global revolution.
And if you want to hear all of our latest news, get free practices and tips, and learn about our offerings, sign up for our juicy emails at thejadetemple.com. Thank you so much, sisters. We love you and hope to see you soon.